Right. Hey everybody, Mark here, and today we will be analyzing for the first time ever the power level of a magic card. Now, I've done a few takes of these just to try and get it right, and they were very long takes, and I think what I learned is I really just need to focus on one card for each video. So although you see I have both my Oathsworn Knight and my Robber of the Rich, oh, come on, and Robber of the Rich. We're just going to be focusing on Oathsworn Knight today. So, what I'm going to do here is go through my whole process to analyze the power level of this magic card, and I'm going to try to go into as much detail as I can, although this is going to just kind of be like a quick run-through of this analysis method. It's not really definitive, and as you can see, there's a lot more math that you can do and a lot more just research that you can do to figure out as accurate of an answer as you can. And I think I will, again, like I'm saying, I'm going to try to be as accurate as I can, but there may be some things that I just won't be able to answer right now, but other people might. So then, I guess, oh yeah, and then also, for other card types. So right now, as you can see, we just got two creatures from Throne of Eldraine, but we will be going over other card types in the future. And definitely I want to go over like planeswalkers, and then lands are kind of weird, so I'll go over those in a future video. But we're just going to start with creatures. And although we won't get to talk as much about the conditional and non-conditional abilities because we're just going over Oathsworn Knight, when we get to Robber of the Rich, we will be able to see some of the conditional and non-conditionals, specifically that Reach and Haste are both conditional abilities, and therefore I will argue they do not add to the casting cost of Robber of the Rich. But Oathsworn Knight is a little more simple, and after talking to Corey, I was reminded that there are a bunch of examples from Judgment Phantoms to compare it to. So, let's just talk here first about Oathsworn Knight. And Oathsworn Knight, as you can see, is a black creature. It has a casting cost of 1 colorless and 2 black, converted mana cost of 3. And actually, first, we're definitely going to talk more about cost in terms of converted mana cost, and I will go over kind of the way that abilities contribute to the coloring of their mana cost. But in general, you don't exactly need to focus on that, and so I'll talk about that as I go on here. But to read its abilities, Oathsworn Knight enters the battlefield with 4+1/+1 counters on it. Oathsworn Knight attacks each combat if able. If damage would be dealt to Oathsworn Knight while it has a +1/+1 counter on it, prevent that damage and remove a +1/+1 counter from it. And it is a 0/0 creature. So, starting down with, or actually, sorry, not attack and defense, we're in Magic, so this is power and toughness. I'm talking in Mage War terms, sorry about that. So, because it has 0/0, this does not contribute at all to its cost, and what we'll also be going over a little bit is the difference between deck cost and play cost. And in, of course, Magic the Gathering, play cost is called casting cost, but there is definitely a deck cost that we can determine for this. So the first ability, Oathsworn Knight, comes onto the battlefield with 4+1/+1 counters on it. Now, although this is an ability, and yes, it does give this card counters, this is mechanically functional to Oathsworn Knight being a 4/4. And yes, these are counters. This is not specifically power and toughness. So, those counters could affect other abilities and be targeted perhaps, but functionally speaking, the cost of that ability is still going to be the same as giving Oathsworn Knight the same amount in power and toughness. So, power and toughness is divided by 2 rounded down is the play cost. So 4 is just going to be 4. And the deck cost for that would be 8. Oathsworn Knight attacks each combat if able. In Magic the Gathering, you can have abilities that have a negative cost, and I believe this is a -1 ability. And here's one of the things I'm just going to kind of gloss over, because you could definitely do a lot more in-depth analysis, and maybe there's, maybe it's more or less or, something like that, but I think putting this as a -1 ability is probably accurate. If damage would be dealt to Oathsworn Knight while it has a +1/+1 counter on it, prevent that damage and remove a +1/+1 counter from it. And getting into our analysis here, I'm going to argue that that last ability is a 1-cost ability. So altogether, if this is 4, this is -1, total 3. By adding 1 more, it should have a play cost of 4. And actually, if we go back and add up the deck cost, that would be 8 minus 1 is 7, plus 1 is 8. So it would have a deck cost of 8 and a play cost of 4. But as you can see, Oathsworn Knight has a play cost of 3. Sorry, I keep saying play cost. It's casting cost. Has a casting cost of 3. So I think that Oathsworn Knight has a power level of 1. It costs 1 less than it should. And now we're actually going to get into the kind of more in-depth analysis. And the way that I do that is by searching mainly on Scryfall, and that's just one of the best repositories for card searches. You can just search all kinds of card text, and initially I didn't find the phantoms because I was searching specific card text and I didn't do as in-depth a search as I should have, but thankfully Corey pointed these out to me. So we can look at all of the phantoms that come up, and we've got Phantom Centaur, Phantom Flock, Phantom Nantuko, Phantom Nishoba, Phantom Nomad, and Phantom Tiger. These are all from Judgment. And these are all basically the same thing as Oathsworn Knight, with the variant being that middle ability here, whereas Oathsworn Knight has to attack each turn if able. These other cards have different abilities. So, in order to really pin down what these abilities cost, you need to compare them to other cards that already exist, and also just do the math on them. Some of them are kind of self-explanatory. And for other cards, this may become extremely difficult because there may not be any other instance of that ability in Magic. It may have only been printed once or something, and in that case, you would have to do quite a bit of speculation. But thankfully, I mean, casting costs don't go that high. We're not talking about triple digits or anything here, and certainly nothing over like 30, or I don't even know if there's a card with 20. I should search that. I should know that. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty. Yeah, you have a small margin of error in doing this. So let's just take a look here at the phantoms and kind of figure out in a little less detail what I think these cards are here. So Phantom Centaur 2/0, that would be play cost, or sorry, casting cost of 1. Protection from black, that's a conditional ability, so doesn't contribute. Comes into play with 3 +1/+1 counters on it. Okay, so 3 and then 4 from the first one, from being a 2/0. So that should be 4 so far. And if damage would be dealt, okay, so that should be 5. So it looks like Phantom Centaur because it has a converted cost of 4, looks like it also has a power level of 1. Phantom Flock, flying, non-conditional, 0/0, comes into play with 3. Okay, so 3, 4, 5. So yeah, Phantom Flock should cost 5, and it does cost 5. That's balanced. Phantom Nantuko, 0/0, trample, that's conditional. Comes into play with 2 +1/+1 counters. Okay, so 2. And then it's got the 1 ability there. So that's 3 so far. And then it's got the tapping ability, put a +1/+1 counter on Phantom Nantuko. Now, that last ability is kind of funny. You could actually, you could argue either way whether that's conditional or non-conditional, but really quickly, because I'm just not, this isn't a video for Phantom Nantuko, I'm going to guess that that's conditional, because if you tap it, you can't attack with it. So yeah, you could say Phantom Nantuko has a power level of 1, but being a power level of 0, it is a balanced card, I don't think is too far off. I think there's a pretty good possibility that Phantom Nantuko is balanced. So Phantom Nishoba, 0/0, trample. Okay, so comes into play with 7 +1/+1 counters. So 7. It's got lifelink, so I'm going to call that non-conditional. And then it's got the prevent damage ability. So 2 and then 7, so 9, and it costs 7. So Phantom Nishoba looks like it has a power level of 2. Phantom Nomad, again 0/0, comes into play with 2 +1/+1 counters, and it's got the remove or prevent damage ability. So actually, Phantom Nomad is a really good card to look at because it just has the counters ability and the prevent damage by removing counters ability. It doesn't have anything else. So that card to me actually has a power level of 1 because Phantom Nomad has a converted mana cost of 2. So if it comes into play with 2 +1/+1 counters on it and it has the prevent damage ability, then that should actually cost 3. Phantom Tiger costs 3. It's a 1/0, comes into play with 2. Okay, but that's still 2 and 3. So yeah, Phantom Tiger is balanced. So really quickly here, it looks like Phantom Tiger was balanced, Phantom Nomad power level of 1, Phantom Nishoba power level of 2, Phantom Nantuko possibly balanced, Phantom Flock balanced, Phantom Centaur power level of 1. So yeah, I don't think it's very far off. Looking at all of these cards and seeing what their costs are and seeing what I think their power levels are, I don't think it's too far off to determine that this is a 1-cost ability. I think that fits in pretty well with all those other cards, especially the ones that are balanced, and then you can see the ones that have just a power level of 1. It looks like they're about on par. So when I look at this here, and I see, yeah, coming into play with 4 +1/+1 counters, so adding a casting cost of 4, -1 for 3, +1 for 4, and yeah, I think it should have a casting cost of 4, which would make Oathsworn Knight a power level of 1. And then really quickly, let's talk about the black mana there. So obviously, if this is a black card, it should have at least 1 black mana. But does anything here say specifically a black ability? I don't think anything here is a specifically black ability. Even especially with the negative ability there, it would kind of be weird because it's taking away. So I'm not really sure I agree with the 2 black there. I think that's just kind of a design choice. I don't know if it matters all that much, but a lot of people really care about it, and especially if you're very competitive, if you were expecting to play this on turn 1 or something with just a single black mana, you'd be out of luck. But I think that if I were to give this a casting cost of 3 colorless and 1 black, I don't think that would be imbalanced. I think, in fact, that would be perfectly balanced. But I wouldn't disagree with 2 colorless and 2 black. So that is my real quick assessment there. And I would really like to get more to Mage War videos, actually doing like deck profiles and things like that. So I don't want this, like, analyzing Magic cards to take up too much of my time, but it is a very, like, I do take this seriously, and I do realize that I do need to do more of this content, both to inform people and also to promote the channel. So I will continue to do these, but I'm also hoping that in between I can get to what I consider to be some more fun stuff. Even though I really love Magic the Gathering, to me doing this math, especially since I'm not yet making money on it, and I'm not a speculator, I'm not a Magic investor really. I do own some products, but definitely not an investor. So this content is all kind of for people who take this much more seriously than I do. But that's kind of that. So thanks for watching, and yes, in the next video I'll go over Robber of the Rich, and also, which actually, to get a spoiler, so what I actually think is that Robber of the Rich probably has a power level of 3, just to give you a heads up, and you'll see in the video why. But I will also go over in future videos cards with a negative power level, so cards that actually have a casting cost that's more than what it should be, which would be, you know, kind of like your junk cards in a set there. So kind of a last note, if you were analyzing a full set, not just single cards, what you'd want to do is figure out the deck and play cost of every card, and then add up all of the deck cost and find out what the total point cost is for that set, and then actually go over all of the cards' power levels and see what the total power level of that set was, given its point total. And maybe you could do some kind of division there, but those would just give you some really hard numbers. And also, there are other cards you can look at specifically for Oathsworn Knight, 2 more of them, not just the Phantoms. You've also got Unbreathing Horde and Undergrowth Champion, and I think those cards also support the exact same point structure that I gave for this, so you can look at those. And yeah, if you think I'm crazy, let me know. Also, if you have any cards specifically that you would like me to go over, please let me know. I don't own that many cards right now, but I can always see if I can just, you know, put a picture of it like on the screen, just do some editing, and just kind of do the video that way. But otherwise, thanks for watching, and that's pretty much, yeah, that's it. I don't know why I drag out these endings so much. I gotta end the video. Bye.